Good morning. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2019. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect that Commissioners Decker, Goldsmith, Soboroff are present and we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Members of the public, I know Mr. Bonner is on his way. He got stuck in a little bit of traffic. I also understand that some members of the Dorsey family are here this morning, and Ms. Smith has indicated she would like to speak. Ms. Smith, I'm not sure where you are, but as soon as Mr. Thank you very much. As soon as Mr. Bonner arrives, which should be momentarily, I'll give you the opportunity to speak first. But just so everyone knows the order, we're going to begin with the agenda. When Mr. Bonner arrives, I'll take a break, allow Ms. Smith to speak if she chooses, and then we'll go back to our regular agenda order.
By the way, may I say, this could also...
I'm sorry, sir, you are out of order, sir.
No, actually...
Sir, you actually are...
Briefly, let me just make my
Sir,
question.
you can
The
speak.
LAPD is
You're
spying on refused
disrupting the
passengers.
meeting,
Maybe go
sir.
after Ms. Dorsey.
Sir,
Maybe go
you will
after
have
Ms.
an
Dorsey.
opportunity to speak today, but if you don't sit down, I'll have to ask you to leave the meeting, sir. Please sit down. Sir,
Go after Ms.
please sit down. Thank you. And if there are continued disruptions, I will have to excuse the individuals who disrupt. I really do not want to do that. We would like to hear from all members of the public who would like to speak today. With that, we'll begin on the agenda items. Madam Secretary, are there public comment cards on anything with respect to regular agenda items 1A through F?
We have one card on D.
One card on D, thank you. Members of the Commission, do you have any questions regarding items A, B, C, or F?
No, I don't.
No. With that, is there a motion with respect to approving the items as indicated on the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-0. All those items pass. With respect to item D, members of the Commission, do you have any questions of the department on those items?
No.
No, I don't.
Okay. Can we call the public comment card, please?
Yes, Jonathan Foster.
Mr. Foster.
Most of these shootings, like the Eric Rivera shootings, unconstitutional. Here you've got this thing down that you're doing constitutional policing and you're going to do some approving records for retention schedule and proposed changes. And I mean, when they, my God, it's incredible. You still haven't really honored the Rivera family. I mean, it's been one of the most heinous ones that I've seen. The constitutional policing that you're standing on, I know I've looked at those reports and I kind of hear like there's something kind of close to it. And you got some records retained, but then somebody without a gun gets shot dead. It's not in the Constitution. It's not found in the Bible either, by the way, that you guys can just gun down people. So I mean, you're going to do a movement, but that's just a lie. Constitutional policing, when it comes to these people that are shot dead. They shot a guy 55 times in a car. They
Madam
shot
Chair,
another guy 20
the
times.
speaker's
Oh,
off
okay.
topic. This is about a retention schedule.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to accept item
So
D?
moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The item passes. Ms. Smith, if you'd like to go to the podium, ma'am, Mr. Bonner has arrived and we welcome hearing. If you'd prefer to sit up front, you're welcome to, ma'am.
She'll stand. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Alba Ramone Dorsey's sister. Unfortunately, I'm here to speak to give you all a picture of the person whose life was taken. Ramone was a family name in our family every day. Ramone took care of my brother who's handicapped. Ramone was a big help in our community. Ramone was an awesome person. Ramone was a gentle giant. He may have been big in size, but his heart was huger. I don't know. I know why he was killed, per se. But the people who took his life don't have any idea of the person that he took and the impact that it has made on our family and our community and others as well. I'm not going to stand up here and give you all my words because, as you would assume, that I'm just saying it because I'm his sister. But I have character witness letters from 4 different people that don't even know each other. And the words are so similar that it can tell you the person whose life was taken. The first letter I have, it says, "To whom it may concern, I've known Albert Ramone Dorsey for many years. I've known Ramone as the quiet kid on the block. Over the years, I had observed his talent for washing and detailing cars or servicing others with lawn care. He had a friendly way of capturing others with his smile or singing songs that I often heard from my window during his services. Ramone was extremely competent, responsible, efficient, creative, and detail-oriented when it came to cutting my grass or detailing my vehicle when asked. He was always polite, and he had always addressed me with yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am. When asking him a question, he was a professional and a dynamic worker. Ramone was a valuable asset to the community, and his services are truly missed. Sincerely, Pamela Brown."
Mr. Herman, if you interrupt this meeting one more time, you will be excused.
Those words should excuse him.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm terribly sorry for the offensive language that is used. However, under California law, we are not allowed to remove him for his speech.
I'm not here to be insulted, I tell you that.
Mr. Herman? Ma'am, I'm sorry for the interruption. Please continue.
This is another letter. To whom it may concern. My name is Alicia Tosin. I'm writing this letter to refer to Albert Ramone Dorsey in regards to his character. I've known Albert for over 12 years. He is my husband's cousin, more so like a brother. And I have spent a significant amount of time over the years with Albert to feel confident and without hesitation speak on his behalf, especially based on the fact that he was cruelly killed by the LAPD. Albert was the most genuine, selfless, thoughtful, humble, charismatic human being a person could ever know. Even when faced with life's obstacles, he would try to find the best in every situation. Albert aspired to be the best he could be, even if it required him stepping out of his comfort zone to achieve his goals. He could hold a conversation with anyone because he was a lover of people and humanity. He is also known to be the person who would give the shirt off his back, even to a complete stranger. I've witnessed this on many occasions. His kind heart and warm spirit drew people to him, even those who didn't know him. If his circumstances weren't the best, he never showed it, and he always gave out positive energy and everything he had to be helpful to the next person. Albert always wanted to be an inspiration to the youth of his community, to show them that it's possible to set goals and achieve them even with the obstacles that life throws your way. Albert was a motivated self-starter. He always applied himself and followed through with achieving the goals he set for himself. He was the person to prove people wrong when they told him he couldn't do something. He showed up every time with this mission accomplished despite any drawbacks that occurred. Albert aspired to be an entrepreneur, for which he found legitimate ways to achieve his goal. Albert started his own business doing landscaping, car washing, and detailing. His attention to detail and customer service was beyond impressive, which allowed him to build a great clientele. He had support from his community, along with support from strangers who he built a great rapport with, grew to love him and his drive. Everyone would refer to Albert as a gentle giant. because his genuine spirit exuded when you came into his presence. Albert was always quiet and didn't bother anyone. He stayed away from confrontation, but defended himself when absolutely had to be provoked. My eyes filled with tears as I heard of the unforeseen tragedy that occurred while Albert sought out the chase of his dreams and aspirations in Los Angeles. A young black man trying to change in his life to create better circumstances to make his family proud ended within 2 weeks of his new journey. His optimism and aspiration suddenly ended by cruel police brutality. I'm hopeful that my letter fall upon a person of integrity that will see fit that justice is served and closure is brought to his family and friends who loved and missed him dearly. Respectfully, Alicia Tosin. I have 2 more letters that I would like to read. This is from his former employer. Before Ramone started his own business, he started working for a man named Willie Bridges doing car detailing. It's really hard for me to write this letter, but I cannot express the love I have for Ramone. I've known him all his life, and one day he told me that he had been watching me clean cars since he was young and asked could he help me clean and detail cars. That was about 10 years ago. He was a quick learner, and he had the love in his heart to serve people. I really enjoyed every minute of working side by side with Ramone. We were a team. We were a great tag team, and the detailing chemistry was there. He was a great kid who grew up to be a hard, honest, working man who pushed hard to always try to do what's right first. But he had a dream of becoming a great rapper, so he started moving into that direction in studio and wanted to be a star, taking his journey to Hollywood. Wow. He did what he said he would do. In my eyes, he will always be a superstar due to hatred, but he will never be a superstar due to hatred, but he will always be a star in our hearts, always with my brother/nephew and like a son. That's from Willie Bridges. This letter is from another one of his customers, clients that he worked for. To whom it may concern, my name is Lucille V. Allen. I'm proud to offer my character letter on behalf of Albert Ramone Dorsey, to whom I have personally known for 15 years as my friend. I had the pleasure of being introduced to Ramone by his uncle Willie Bridges. Ramone would accompany his uncle to my house, detail, wash my vehicles. Not only did Ramone assist his uncle, he would also help with my lawn care and also help my father move furniture into my house. Ramone was always willing to help in areas where asked. During my relationship with Albert Ramone Dorsey, I have experienced an individual who showed up earlier than asked, worked hard, and carried himself in a polite and respectable manner. In addition, Ramone was a family person who always presented himself with level-headedness and grace. It's with great sadness that I'm writing this letter. Ramone was someone who I truly believe possessed the character and judgment for the betterment of our community. Sincerely, Lucille V. Allen. There was one more letter that I had, but I can't seem to find it. Right now, I have all kinds of thoughts going through my head because I just don't understand what the reason was. Because he asked the question, and it was clear to see anybody that watched the video, regardless of whatever they pieced together to try to paint him out to be a bad person, because I think the previous incident, if I know my brother the way that I know my brother, he was provoked. He was protecting himself with that security guard, that incident. But we're not going to talk about that incident. We're talking about his murder here. When they came in, Ramone was totally naked. Ramone didn't have on a stitch of clothing. He was showering, obviously, to leave the gym, because who showers to go back into the gym? They didn't give him the opportunity. They came in because they got a phone call saying that he was being whatever they claimed him to be that day. It was clear to me that he was a little calm to been into some type of ordeal or situation that went on that morning, because anybody that gets upset and goes through something is not that calm, because it's called emotions, and they're hard to control, especially when you're upset. So I doubt very seriously he would have been standing there showering, listening to music as he does. That's what they don't know. When I watched that video, I didn't see him do anything out of character. I only seen Ramone do what Ramone does when that's just Ramone. Everybody has a repeated pattern of the way that they live their life. Everybody gets up the same day, the same time. If you work, you shower, you eat, you get dressed, you leave, you do the same things the same way every day, unless somebody throws you off like they did. They messed up his pattern. He asked them, can y'all just leave me alone? Because he was trying to get himself together. He couldn't get himself together because they were standing there with a woman in the dressing room, in a locker room with a naked man, and I think that was totally disrespectful. Totally disrespectful. That was wrong. They didn't give him a chance. He walked away because he couldn't get himself together. Like, I can't believe these people are recording me like this. They humiliated my brother. They humiliated my brother. That was wrong. I couldn't even see an animal being treated the way that they did my brother. They were protecting the animal first. So basically, they thought less of a human being than they would of an animal. Because, see, they would jail a person for killing an animal. But my brother is dead and gone, and the only thing I can walk around every day with this R on my chest with my brothers and ashes, and then me, my mom, and my brother. And these pictures that we have to show you all that Ramone was a family man. This is our family. We no longer have him. It's hard. This is hard. These people went in, didn't give him a reason for why they wanted him to leave. Oh, besides, they don't want you here. Why? If they accepted his money and gave him a membership, why wasn't he allowed there? If they didn't want him there, they shouldn't have accepted his money or gave him a membership if they didn't want him there from the beginning. That was unfair. They went inside. I can also say, yes, he may have been where he wasn't supposed to be, but I know my brother. This is how well I know my brother. Let me explain to y'all why he was back there. He knew they didn't want him there. So Ramone was going to utilize what he paid for, which was a gym membership. He enjoyed working out in the gym. So he wanted to shower. He paid to utilize the showers. They don't want him over there where the other people were, so he went to himself. He secluded himself. He went somewhere else and isolated himself away from everybody else so he could comfortably shower and listen to his music that encouraged him. And because while he does that, while he's listening to his music, that's how his mind works. He creates more music. That's the purpose. It helps him get through with his day. He was no way trying to be disrespectful to anybody. I didn't see it. I saw my brother put his hands in the air. He already stood above them. He put his hands up higher to show them that he was not trying to harm anybody. They fought to take his arms down and fought him off camera and fought their own cameras off. He didn't knock them off. They fought their own cameras off, to me, purposely, to push him somewhere outside of the camera to take his life. To claim that they tasered him. And they did not taser him because we had a second autopsy done. And it clearly states, and I have all evidence on my phone. I have written documents of everything. I keep everything. It shows and it says that Ramone was never tasered. So that means they brutally just shot and killed my brother. They tried in no ways to call for backup if they felt threatened because he was big and black, because that's really what they wanted to say. That's really what they meant. The size didn't really matter. It was the color. That's all they saw. And that's what they wanted to get rid of. They saw opportunity. They said, he here by himself. We're going to get another black nigga off the street because ain't nobody here to help him right now. And that's what they did. That's exactly what they did. And then we have people like some of these people in here that want to come out and defend and call names. What name should you be calling the people that's taking people's lives? Forget the color. We are talking about human beings here. We're talking about people that have loved ones, because I guarantee you, if it was either one of yours, you would feel the exact same way that I feel right now. It's a shame that I have to come all the way to LA and speak for my brother, because he can't speak for himself anymore right now, because his life was taken. His life was taken senselessly. Senselessly. That was a brutal and hateful murder. I think I may be finished here. I thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak. I hope you all can dig deep in your hearts and recognize what actually took place that day, and regardless of to what they're saying or making it out to be. I also see, no, I'm not finished. I heard stories of, oh, well, he put his hands on. I heard that rehearsed conversation that they had amongst each other after they shot and killed my brother. Get off of her. Get off of her. My brother was raised by me and my mom. Women, not men, women. What make you think my brother wouldn't kill a fly as big as he is? My brother will open the door and let a fly out before he'll kill a fly. So what make you think he will put his hands on a woman, more so a police officer, when we all know that police officers have access to firearms that will kill you? What person in their right mind gonna go after a police officer with a gun? If I clearly heard, if my ears didn't deceive me, I also heard my brother say, we can all get along here. That's what I heard him say before they pushed him to the back and shot and killed him. Mercy. Thank you all.
Say his name.
Albert Ramone Dorsey.
Say his name.
Albert Ramone Dorsey.
Say his name.
Albert Ramone Dorsey.
Say his
Thank
name.
you very much.
Albert Ramone Dorsey.
Say his name.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Dorsey.
Ma'am, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for coming and for traveling across the country. We very much appreciate hearing your comments. To amend what I said earlier, we got through much of the agenda this morning. We'll proceed to public comment on this item, on the closed session item 4A. Madam Secretary, are there cards on that matter?
Yes, we have 17 cards.
We'll hear the matter then. Can you please call the first few speakers?
Dante Ivory, Paul Johnson, Michael Novick, and Karen Helfman.
Mr. Ivory.
Good morning, everyone. I'm trying to keep my composure because that really hurt my heart. We are a family here, so that really kind of, it was touching speech, and it really got to me. But following it up with the speech that was just given, something really needs to be done about these shootings. Whatever you can put in your policies or procedures, whatever can be done, something needs to happen. This is unacceptable. It's very unacceptable. If he was unarmed and had no weapon, no one around him, naked, he didn't deserve to live his last life like that. I went to school right across the street. I've experienced some things in Hollywood, so I understand. I understand a lot of what Albert went through. And I don't mean to sidetrack and bring another name in this, but Ryan Twyman is also a great example of why this is unacceptable. Getting shot over 30 times, just like the person that was shot 55 times, and the person, Albert, that was in the shower, and to get framed, because that's what it sounds like to me. He was framed and killed.
Because he wouldn't leave, so they
Right.
moved away.
And I've went through other stuff where, the police treat me a certain kind of way. But if you want to say that you want to give fair treatment to everyone, please do that. All the time and not just sometime. Lives are at stake. Something needs to be done. When will something be done? Or are you going to wait for the next person to get killed?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ivory. Mr. Johnson?
Good morning. Thank you for having this forum. I'd like to comment about the incident. My name is Paul Johnson. It's very difficult for me to understand why 2 LA police officers needed to shoot a naked man, unarmed, who was taking a shower at 24-Hour Fitness on his way out of the gym. It's really hard to believe that this shooting was justified. I'm very disappointed that neither body cam was operational at the time of the murder, so that the 2 LAPD officers who shot the naked, unarmed man in the shower at 24-Hour Fitness might provide some documented video evidence that the shooting was justified. The missing body cam video evidence, the fact that it's not available for either of the officers who shot the man who was naked, taking a shower, unarmed, in 24-Hour Fitness on his way out of the gym, does have the appearance of tampering with evidence. Thank you.
Sir? Mr. Novak?
Yeah, it beggars belief that the 2 officers lost their body cams at the same time that this whole incident took place without any video footage after those were discarded, and that's when the fatal shooting, the murder, took place. Some of you who've been on this commission longer know that my oldest stepson was killed in a motorcycle accident. And, that was a tragic accident. That's a dozen years ago. August 25th was 12 years. And our family still suffers that loss. He, had a grandson that was born who will never know his grandfather. And, that's a tragic accident. But this is something that is different. This is the result of conscious actions and policies by the law enforcement agents of this city. And it's your responsibility to hold them accountable for it. You cannot bring Albert Ramone Dorsey back. You cannot really solve that pain that the family is suffering, but you can deal with the responsibility that you have as the police commissioners of this city to hold those officers accountable for what they did, the life they took, and to change the course of this city and this department once and for all. You need to find them out of policy, and that chief needs to act on your recommendations and act to deal with those officers so they don't kill again. And if you fail to live up to that responsibility, I think you should hang your heads in shame the rest of your lives.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Right now, I feel sickened and disgusted and ashamed of our city, of our city's leadership, and of the police department that's supposedly charged with protecting the safety of everyone. But time and time again, we see how this protection is not for the persons, properties, community, families of people who are black. I have a hard time understanding how anyone on this planet can accept that there's anything okay about what happened to Ramone Albert Dorsey. This is going to sound like hyperbole, but to me today it's not. But the only thing that comes close to this in my mind is Nazi Germany, and it's not a comparison I've ever used before in my nearly 70 years of life. I urge you to do the right thing for the family and for the city.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Secretary, can you call the next 4 names? But before you do, Mr. Herman, I see you're motioning in the back. I've already given you a warning. This is your last warning. I will excuse you from the meeting if you continue to make motions while people are speaking. The next 4 speakers, please.
Paula Miner, Gina Viola, Michelle Dumont, and Tabitha Johet.
Before I start my comments, Ms. Decker, Ms. Sonia said she found the 4th letter and she wanted to read it to you. So if you'll let her read it as soon as I finish.
Of course, Ms. Miner, thank you.
Okay. I'm standing, of course, with the family of Albert Ramone Dorsey to state that his murder was grossly out of policy. He was shot twice, once in the chest and once off the shoulder, while naked, while wet, in the locker room of 24-Hour Fitness. There was no de-escalation. Contrary to what LAPD said, the independent autopsy showed he was not tasered. When an autopsy occurs, if there was even an ineffective taser, if it touches you, it shows. The officer said both of their body cams fell off at the same time. I mean, like a choreographed simultaneous losing of the body cameras. Is horrible. If they felt that Albert Ramone Dorsey was too large or too black for these 2 small officers to handle, they should have called for backup. There was no de-escalation. He was not leaving that room at that moment. He was not going to walk out of there wet and naked. We know that 24-Hour Fitness called the police on him. Whatever conflict, whatever allegations, the penalty would not have been death. The LAPD officers cornered him and murdered him for no reason except the usual racial bias found in LAPD, where black people are shot first and a story concocted second. Black people are disproportionately shot. We know that in so many other instances with people doing things far more egregious than this, that they are arrested, they are removed or whatever, and they live. Albert Ramone Dorsey did not have to die. LAPD was unequivocally wrong. This murder was out of policy, and lies were told by LAPD. Again, this is a horrible situation, but it is an example of what continues to occur, and it's an example of the broken trust that Chief Moore always talks about, making trust with the community over and over again. It is broken.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I got a little emotional. I couldn't find it, but I found the 4th letter.
Thank you, ma'am.
To whom it may concern, I have known Mr. Albert Ramone Dorsey for approximately 10 years. We met Albert as a result of the auto detailing service business he was employed by. My husband and I have utilized Willie's auto detailing service for approximately 15 years. And when Albert joined the team, he quickly became our favorite detailing engineer. In fact, we would personally request him to take care of our vehicles for every car wash and every detailing schedule. As I observed his participation in this position, he always presented himself as a sincere, enthusiastic, and conscientious individual. In my opinion, he was a person of unquestioned character and was witty and easy to conversate with, while at the same time he would be diligently working on completing each task of thoroughly cleaning and detailing our cars. We had several conversations over the years about many other aspects of life and living. Albert always took pride in providing his customers with outstanding world-class customer service. Albert's devotion and dedication in contributing to the success of Mr. Willie Bridges' auto detailing business is indicative of the kind of perseverance that's found to be characteristic of the kind person he was in his everyday life. I'm sorry I had to provide a letter of personal reference for this very sad occasion. However, I am very happy to attest the kind and beautiful attributes of this very fine young man. Sincerely, A. Gene Pitts. I think these letters are important because, as you can see, as he was stereotyped, Ramone wasn't homeless. You know, people knew him. He had a home, he had a family, and people cared about him. He put into the community where the respect, you give respect to get respect. Ramone wasn't a disrespectful person. And when I tell y'all that each one of these letters are written by different people that don't even know each other, how is it that they're so much alike? Because they're describing the person whose life was taken. And it's hard for anybody to believe. It never crossed our mind, because sometimes somewhere you get people that you say, oh, well, that person needs, they act out of order or act out of character sometimes. That wasn't Ramone. That was not Ramone. I don't know what was going through these people's mind. Like I said, yes, we do know, but we won't know until they say it. They're not going to say it. But I think these letters act as a very important piece of y'all making y'all decisions in this case, or whatever y'all have to do with these officers. And I would appreciate it if you use your hearts to make these decisions, just as if it was your own personal family member. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Viola, you're next, ma'am.
I truly hope that you can hear the humanization of Albert Ramone Dorsey today in this room. It's struck me, it's taken words from me. When I learned about Albert's killing, all I kept thinking was, how bad do the police have to be at their job? How bad do they have to be that a naked man in the shower cannot be taken alive by police? How bad are you at your job? And the more I've asked myself this, the more I've realized they're not bad at their jobs. This is what they're trained to do. This is what you're training people to do. This is what you're doing every time you find everything the police do in policy. And the one time you find it out of policy, you don't fire those officers. So you are all responsible for this. You are all responsible for this. And then you put out these videos, these horrible videos. Shame on you. Shame on these edited videos that you continue to put out to criminalize the victims that you murder. It is just appalling. The lengths, you know no bounds. The lengths you'll go to. Melly Curtado, the bystander shot at Trader Joe's. You just ordered a toxicology report on her body a year later. Why do you torment families like this? To victimize and cover up what you do. Why? When are you going to fire the officers that shot Grishario Mack, that killed him, that this board finally found out of policy? Every time this happens in this city, I know it starts here in this room. Every time a police officer shoots a black man and gets away with it, a black man, black woman, black person, I know it's all on you, all of you. Shame on you.
Mr. Rome?
I watched that video this morning, and you guys have to stop it. You have no right to edit those videos. Those videos should be released as they are, not with your own commentary and your own incorrect explanations of what your officers are doing. You know, you have no right to do that. This is public access. This is public information that needs to be given to the public. The public needs to see and to hear exactly what happened, not your version of what happened. But even watching that video, it is crystal clear to me that Albert Ramone Dorsey was not aggressive that day. It was your officers who were aggressive. Your officers who expressed frustration and that they were wasting their time. They wanted it over. They wanted to get on with their day. They wanted to get on with their business as usual and not be bothered by this man in the shower or a call from 24-hour Fitness. And Gina's right. Every single time they pull their gun, they know nothing is going to happen to them because of all of you sitting here, and especially because of the chief. I also blame Jackie Lacey because she gives them a carte blanche, no prosecution no matter what. But she bases all of her analysis on what you people feed her. You've got to stop this. This is contemporary lynching. This is a disgrace to our city. I know it's business as usual. This is what you've done always and you will continue to do. But we're here to tell you it's wrong and you've got to stop it now.
Thank you, ma'am. Tabitha?
That's right. That's right. I want to defer my time to Ramone's mother. Can we please restart the clock?
If she wishes to speak,
She
won't
was
be-
speaking, so I didn't want to interrupt her.
Okay, please reset it for 2.
Thank you. It takes my breath away every week to be here, but most especially when we stand in solidarity with families whose loved ones have been stolen by murderous police. So I want to first offer my condolences to Ramone's mother and to his sister. And I am waiting for each and every one of you to do that. Because we've been sitting in this room for almost an hour and not one of you have offered condolences to this family. Shame on you. What makes you inhuman when you enter this space? That's my first question. The second thing I want to lift up is the access that we all have, so many of us, but not everybody in this room, to engage in the daily practice, the ritual of showering, to wash ourselves, our most intimate selves, each morning, grateful for the gift of life. That's what Ramone was doing, Chief Moore, when your officers stormed him when he was naked, unarmed, and they murdered him. You realize that? They murdered this beautiful black man because they weaponized his black skin. That is the only explanation that could exist for an unarmed black man showering, doing what we do intimately in a gym. He was murdered. So what I want to appeal to you today is to rethink first and foremost the policies that you've constructed. I've read them. I know your statutes. I know what you tell yourselves about what it takes to be able to justify your decision making. Your policies are inherently flawed. They're inherently black, and they produce the same results. Isn't that right, Dale Bonner? Every time we show up and speak to the reality that black men and black women and black children are being murdered, there's something wrong with your policy if you can't ever find people out of policy. So I want to leave you with this. The words of another lynched man, Jesus. He said, I will separate the sheep and the goats. When you came to me and I was naked, either you clothed me or you sent me away empty. Your decision.
Ma'am, finish your speech. Ma'am, there are other speakers waiting, ma'am. Please sit down.
That is inhumane.
Ma'am.
And if you can't appeal to the written policy, you
Ma'am.
appeal to the higher policy that shows that we're all
Ma'am,
human.
please have a seat, ma'am. Thank you very much. Who are the next 4 speakers, please?
Kai Utsumi, Adam Smith, Audrey George, and Eddie H.
Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. Kai Utsumi, Adam Smith, Audrey George, and Eddie H.
Extend your condolences to the family.
Kasumi,
Apologize for the grief they're experiencing.
Sir?
While we have a moment, I would like to extend my condolences to the family. I'm sorry that I did it. I took so long to do it, but I do want to share how sorry I am for your loss. I really can't imagine experiencing such a tragedy. Thank you. I'm sorry it took me this long to say it, but I do want to extend my condolences and say how terribly sorry I am for your loss. It's truly tragic. I cannot imagine it, and I can assure you that we are all going to be objective and do our jobs here today. Thank you.
I would agree with that, and to not only extend our condolences, but know that we will be looking very carefully at all of the information that is given to us, and this is not a 100% intellectual exercise. This is a hard exercise, as you say. Thank you very much.
And finally, I would only add to my colleagues that, yes, you may find it inappropriate that we don't extend our condolences, and I understand that on a human level, and yet our job is to remain as objective in all of these cases as we can be as we evaluate the facts. So, objectivity is important in these cases, which is why we want to hear from everyone. Ma'am, please stop interrupting or you'll have to leave the meeting. Sir, the floor is now yours.
This police commission has to repeat again that this shooting was out of policy. It's got to be made public. You can't just keep it in this room. It's got to go outside this room because some racist called the police to shoot an unarmed black man in the shower. That was a racist call to a racist police department. So the officer needs to be fired. It's just one more black man being unnecessarily murdered by a police officer, because this commission and the police chief does nothing to fire. The man's got to be fired. This commission, do your job and put out to the public the shooting was out of policy. There's too much racism in this society. This is a white supremacist racist society that intensified with the presidency of Donald Trump and his law and order. And that's got to change. So I'm sick and tired of all these shootings by the police of black people and making all kinds of false excuses. Over and over, false excuses.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith, you're next. Ms. George.
The murder of Ramone is just an example of the many ways, the many times the LAPD has tried to criminalize and take the dignity of black people. I know you will find this out of policy. What kind of policy could there be that would support having LAPD officers murder somebody naked and unarmed in the shower or after getting in the shower? And I saw the video, and why Ramone was murdered was because he wasn't getting dressed fast enough. And how can it be in policy for those two officers to disarm their cameras at the same time at such a crucial moment in the situation? Do you think
Mr. T-Fank, Mr. Sobroff, if you had been naked in a shower causing any kind of disruption, irritating somebody, causing fear, would they have sent a woman officer in while you were naked and tried to expect you to be calm and compliant? Do you think that would happen, Eileen Decker, that they would send a man into the shower to investigate a complaint against you if you were naked? This was so racist. It happened because Ramone was black. Chief Moore, your officers tried to take the humanity away from Ramone. All of you, all the result is that this situation has taken the humanity away from all of you. If you find this in policy, the shame that these officers have already brought upon the city and LAPD will be tenfold.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Smith?
I'm sorry to Sonia and to Ramone's mom that you are here today. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry that you had to fly across the country to come into this room to speak to this board, to humanize your brother in the face of dehumanization.
That's right. I had to rehumanize my brother so they could see who he really was instead of their faded picture. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm just sorry that, you came to this room that has all these things on the wall that talk about integrity, that talk about serving and protecting. Lies. And it makes me think every time I'm up here about, who they are serving and protecting, what they're serving and protecting. I think about the role of the chief of police to protect the police union and to protect his officers at all costs, regardless of what that does to him as a person, as a human. We come here, you all are here asking for them to do something when no one should be in this fucking position. I find platitudes from this board to be, made up. I actually think about the conversations that they have before this, like, oh, we're going to have to sit through this. We're just going to have to get through this meeting, and then it'll all be fine. But it's not fine. This shit is going to keep happening because of what all of you do. Because of what you do, Chief Moore, and what you don't do. Because of what you all do. Steve, nobody believes you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Eddie H. is the next speaker.
Eddie H., Los Angeles Community Action Network. I just want to say, first of all, that we don't have to quantify or qualify who we are. That's right. Not to be shot for no fucking reason. I look, I walk, I talk, I act, I eat like everyone on that dais. So I am a human being, right? I am a human being. So did you hear the cries of the mother and the sister and the wailing of our village? Mr. Bonner, you know what I'm talking about, right? When we talk about the wailing of our village, we talk about historic and systemic, right? We're talking about not a moment in time, but something that's been happening for 400 years, right? So when we talk about de-escalation, there can be no de-escalation without decolonization of the mind and the thinking. Right. So you still have the colonizers who didn't look at us as being human beings manning the fort, right? Occupying our neighborhoods, right? And exacting upon us the violence that they exact upon us for over 400 years. So there's no such thing as decolonization. Because the same people that look like you, Michael Moore, 400 years ago, look like you today, shooting us in the back. So when I talk about the mother that is here and the sister that is here and the many that have come before them, when I look at you, what I see is someone who has murdered himself as a colonizer. Right? You've murdered yourself. So you're in the same boat as the people that just murdered Albert Ramone Dorsey, right? So you're not even thinking about the possibility that it was out of policy, because that's what you do. That's what colonizers do. They exact upon us their violence. You're violent. You want to take our bodies and do what you want to do with them. Dr. Martin Luther King once said, an individual has not started living till he can rise above the narrow confines of his own individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity.
Thank you,
not
sir.
you, not you, not you,
Thank you, sir.
not you, not you, not you,
Sir.
not you, has shown that ability to rise
Thank you.
above your fucking own.
Sir, please have a seat. There are other speakers, please.
Your own concerns, right?
Thank you, sir.
Look at this family. I want to say to this family, we stand with you. The village is here. We got your back.
Thank you, sir.
Of this white
Please have a sit.
ideology.
Thank you.
Centered ideology of killers. Of
Thank you.
murderers,
Please have a
of
seat,
rapists.
sir.
This vile,
Who are the next four speakers, please?
inhumane, heartless,
Yes, we have 5 speakers up.
Very well, but sir, you need to sit down. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll have to clear the room if we cannot hear from the final speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final warning. We'll have to clear the room and you will not be here for the decision. Thank you. The final 5 speakers, please.
Yes, we have 5 speakers and we have 5 late cards. Kristen Kaplan, Zach Sherwin, Jonathan Foster, Mr. Herman, and Hamid Khan.
Ms. Kaplan.
Here to give my condolences to the family. I don't come often to these meetings, a few times a year. Sometimes on the website it says that they're at 9:30 when they're at 9. I get confused whether this board is really here to represent the general public. I'm not a great activist. I'm a mother. I speak to teenagers. I'm an educator. These kinds of events are very difficult. I represent thousands of citizens in Los Angeles who read the paper and fret, who don't know what to say to their kids when the police come to their schools. Police come to the schools every day. Right here as I stand here, there are police in preschools telling children how to behave. You have an opportunity to teach the citizens right here on what is an appropriate phone call, what is an appropriate use of the police. You have the power to do this. You have to be creative. We inherited a racist system, but we do not have to perpetuate it. You do not have to perpetuate it. You have the power to make choices. I have sat here and listened to 4 policemen tell you that the sensitivity and diversity and inclusion training they have received was remarkable and changed how they thought of their own constituents. And I also heard from this very board that there wasn't the will or the hours or the time for every policeman to receive this training. And I ask you why. You heard, I heard, it's on public record that it makes a difference. And you do have the power to change. And policemen come in here and ask for it. And we, the public, demand it. And you continue to make the same choice. It is hard to make choices. Please make them. You have the power to change this system. Please do so. Thank you. Thank you, Dorsey family, for coming all this way.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Sherwin, you're next. Mr. Herman, Mr. Sherman's next.
I too am so sorry for your loss and that you have to be here. And while I'm glad to be in this room with you, I wish that we'd never met because this incident did not bring our paths to intersect with each other. I'm so sorry. My heart, like so many people's in this room, is breaking for you and your loss. Your words were so powerful before, and I was particularly struck by your use of the word senseless, and I'll turn now to address the board. The senselessness of this killing is repulsive, it's nauseating. If you gave anyone a brief capsule description of what happened in this incident, they would be horrified. They would grope for additional facts to try and help them make sense. He was naked in the shower, and both body cameras fell off. It's flabbergasting. You must be sensitive, the four of you, to the horror of this behind the impassiveness of your faces and the decorum required of this room. This must touch you on some level. I want to talk about the character assassination that is going along in addition to this killing. There's this mention in the video of these other incidents leading up to the killing, these stark slides on a black screen with white type saying that there were, in the days leading up to it, reports of a battery at 24-Hour Fitness committed by Dorsey. We're told, without any substantiation, it's presented on the screen. Dorsey returns and assaults a security guard. The guard was hospitalized. What conclusion are we supposed to draw from this video that LAPD puts out? What implication are we being inexorably led towards? What are we supposed to conclude? That he deserved to die on October 29th? Even if these other things did happen, which I think is certainly in dispute, A, they have no bearing on what happened on the 29th. And B, why weren't the cops able to de-escalate it? Why didn't they call for backup? Why did it have to happen this way? He didn't have to die.
Mr. Foster.
Hi, sorry you have to be here. When I looked at AB 362, if I got the number wrong, I'm sorry, but it was the California Act to Save Lives. It wasn't before they killed Mr. Dorsey. And what I read is it said they had to go back to 1872 to change law that had been placed in 1872, which is 1 year after the District of Columbia was incepted in Washington, D.C. I watched the video, and I guess you like this stuff, having these people come down here and cry. I would think you would never want this to happen again. I don't know why the call was made, but I watched the video. He shot too many times, didn't call for backup. The officer was going around slamming doors. You could have net guns. I've talked about the net guns. You could have a team of 6 or 8. When the officers walked in, it's hard tie all over the place. Anybody could fall and break their head. Mr. Dorsey could have actually hit his head. They didn't call for backup, though. They were supposed to. And we were told we have rights when this man knew he hadn't done anything wrong. They told him to put his clothes on, and what I saw was he was going to dry off and put his clothes on and walk out. Wasn't he? He was going to put his clothes on and walk out, wasn't he? 24-Hour Fitness, they had a problem. They could have canceled it. They didn't have to shoot the guy. They didn't have to shoot this person. They could have been 8 officers in there, and they actually could have waited. Oh, okay, he's going to dry off and he can walk out. They could have waited. They really could have waited. The problem is the reason why when you talk about the stuff that why do people make a decision, or you're going to look at it and go and see what the policy says. This policy was written in 1871. They barely changed it from it was written in 1872, excuse me. They just barely changed it. And you know what it says? It says you can still kill.
Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, if you could stop the clock for 1 second. Sir, I realize sometimes you, and I'm not guessing what you're going to be saying, but sometimes you are aware you have a tendency to say things that are insulting to many individuals in this room. I'm asking you today, sir, to be sensitive to that as you prepare your remarks. Please restart the clock.
So now that my free speech, the monitoring of my free speech, the censorship my free speech is fucked up. This is how you treat people in America. This is the reason why you're biased, prejudiced, disgraceful, hopeless motherfuckers who take the lives of people simply for the power and the money trip. That's why you have 3 TROs against me, one recently for 5 years, according to the Moss courts with Laura Hymowitz for the record, Miss Hymowitz, who claims that I'm a threat simply because I read the Supreme Court ruling of Brandenburg versus Ohio, or better, Bagdasarian, who said, nigger, who will have a 50 cal in the head soon?
Mr.
Country
Herman.
fuck for a...
Mr. Herman, you're excused from the meeting. I've given you 2 warnings previously, and you stand there and you're not even addressing the topic on the agenda. Mr. Herman's excused from the meeting. Please leave the meeting, sir. Officers, Mr. Herman, you need to leave the meeting. Sir. Sir, goodbye. Mr. Herman, you're excused from the meeting. Goodbye, Mr. Herman. We'll see you next week, Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, Mr. Herman, you're excused from the meeting, sir. Mr. Herman, your time is up. You need to leave the meeting. Who are the next 5 speakers, please?
The
next 5 speakers,
Khan,
please.
Erica Ferriston, Joseph Williams, Sheila, Alex Horner, and Nusaibi Mubarak.
Mr. Khan.
So one of the things, Bonner and Nicholson, I want to ask you is that, can you turn and start the clock, please turn the mic on?
Yes, please restart the clock for Mr. Khan, please.
So have you looked at the mission sheets for that day when Dorsey was murdered, Ramone Dorsey was murdered? Do you know that that 24-hour fitness is 1 block south of a laser zone? And for people who don't know laser zones, these are designated as crime generators and crime triggers, which create conditions on the ground that the cops would go in a very aggressive way to begin with, because whole communities and these locations, like even campuses and churches in these areas, are considered crime triggers, right? So imagine this thing. But through our research, through their own records, what we have found out was that the mission sheet for that day, in that zone, it was a transient act focus, which means basically that, and what the press reports of the shooting reported was that the employees at the gym told police Dorsey was a transient. Coroner's office also reported him as being houseless. Now, the overall mission sheets for laser zones in Hollywood name a violent crime and transient focus and a mission strategy of violent crime and transient suppression. Right. So what does all this mean? And the question is that why would they find it in policy? Like, we want them to find it out of policy, but why would they find it in policy? Right, yeah. Because the policy is about targeted killing of people. It is. The policy is about assassination and targeting extermination of black and brown bodies. The practice is to walk in, guns blazing, not even, and this whole bullshit. First of all, let's not get into this thing that train your officers. Right. Let's be very clear that the police force is the tip of the white supremacist knife. Right. Let's be very clear about it. The only answer is the abolition of policing. You can't train them. You can't change their attitudes. They can't. They are programmed to kill because they enforce these laws which are fundamentally racist in nature, which will always target black and brown bodies for extermination. So I want to know, when you're going to be doing your investigation in this, whether it's in policy or
Thank
not,
you, Mr. Khan.
do you have access to all of these documents or not?
Thank you, sir. Mr. Khan, please have a seat, Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan, please have a seat, sir. Thank you. You've made your point, Mr. Khan. You need to sit down, or I'm going to have to ask you to leave the meeting, sir. Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan, this is your last warning, sir. Thank you. Ms. Berenstain, you're next, ma'am. Ma'am, please. Thank you.
I'm Alex Horner. This marks 2 years that I've been coming to police commission meetings. When I first came, it was really jarring to see people curse and yell at you. I didn't understand why, and I thought it was extreme. But now I do understand why. And even though I have never screamed or cursed at you, I feel that anger, and I agree with those who do. Because for 2 years, I've watched you at every opportunity send a clear and consistent message that whatever LAPD does is in policy and is supported by this commission. And when you say that something is in policy, what you're telling each of us in this room is that you will be okay if and when it happens to us and to our children. And that's why people scream and that's why they curse at you. Not because they are extreme, but because you are.
Right.
Wow. Because I really don't know if you will decide that murdering Albert Ramone Dorsey while he was naked in the shower was within policy. And what gray area could there possibly be here? I've protested outside 24-Hour Fitness with some of the people in this room, and I have to tell you that it is a shocking experience. You have to know that our officers treat me differently than the black people I stand next to. The officers are kind and respectful to me, and I appreciate that. And I've watched them charge black men that are doing the exact same thing I am. And that's on you, because they are trained to treat me a certain way. Why aren't they trained to treat all of us that way? Because you reinforce over and over again that violence against black people in Los Angeles is acceptable, even when it's fatal, even when black men are naked and unarmed, and that is extreme, and it's shameful. 2 years ago, I trusted this department, and what changed that is 2 years of coming here and seeing how it's run. If you vote that this was in policy, then you're saying that you don't train your officers to safely handle naked, unarmed people in our community, and that you aren't going to.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, who are the next few speakers?
Erica Ferriston, Joseph Williams, Sheila, and Nusaibi Marabak.
Thank you.
Hi. First, I want to say that I am here for the Dorsey family because this is all I know to do. We were here last week for Grishario Mac's family. Black Lives Matter, White People for Black Lives, Ground Game LA. All of you guys have been doing this for a long time. And it's heartbreaking, and I am so very, very sorry. So I'm here because it's all I can do. It's all I can do is be here. But you guys actually have the power to do something real. And I have been coming to these meetings more and more. And like the two fellow white women who spoke earlier, you know, I grew up with a different experience. And I'm a mom on the West Side, and I got to tell you what moms on the West Side are learning. When we have little kids and we go to parenting classes, because that's what we do on the West Side. We got to go to experts to tell us how to parent. And they teach us, if your child is lost, tell your child to find a parent. We are no longer taught to tell our children to find somebody in uniform because of this. This is spreading, and this is on you. And you have an opportunity to start to redeem and repent and atone by doing the right thing. And the right thing today is to find the killing of Albert Ramone Dorsey out of policy. And then for you, Chief Moore, to fire the officers. And this information, maybe it used to stay in this room. Maybe it used to stay in a community, but it's spreading. Your names are being known. Your deeds are being known. Do the right thing.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir?
My fault, y'all. So, I've been doing this for a while, this work for a while, and I think all of these incidents hit home for me. But I think this one hit real close to home. I'm from Virginia, grew up in D.C. and Maryland, the DMV. You know, I moved out here recently. So on a lot of levels, I identify with Ramone, right? And I understand you don't move across the country, right, and have a death wish. You don't move across the country and be suicidal. You move across the country because you have dreams, you have goals, you have plans. You're trying to build something. You're trying to create something. You're trying to accomplish something. I know when I first moved out here, I moved out here with a job, a well-paying job, right? Yeah. It took me almost a month to find housing. I was sleeping in my car, right? So folks probably thought I was houseless, won't worth shit, won't bout shit, right? Wouldn't have given me an opportunity in the same way that Ramone wasn't given an opportunity, right? I know coming from Virginia, we know about police brutality, the DMV, we know. Freddie Gray was in Baltimore, right? I know first time I got handcuffed, I was 10 years old. First time I was in a juvenile detention center, I was 13, right? Butt naked with grown officers searching me, right? So I know that the police don't have any value or respect for black bodies. I know how Ramone felt. Being naked and powerless in a room and being forced to submit to commands that don't even fucking make sense for no reason, and having no response, and even still trying to be understanding and trying to be he tried to de-escalate, right? We hear him saying we can all get along, right? And the officers slamming locker doors, slamming doors shut.
Thank you, sir.
Antagonizing an animal while he's saying
Sir.
we can all get along. I know what it's like
Sir.
to be dehumanized, for them to not care about
Sir.
who you are, your sanctity, your privacy,
Sir.
your human body. If I came in your
Sir, I'm
house,
asking you to have a seat.
when you was naked,
Sir.
if I came when you were
Sir. Sir.
what would you feel like?
Sir, I'm asking you for the final time to please have a seat. Sir, this is your final warning, sir. Sir, sir, you need to now leave the room, sir. Sir, I'm sorry, sir. You need to now leave the meeting. Please, sir. Please. Sir, please leave the meeting. Please leave the meeting, sir. Thank you very much. Sir, you need to leave the meeting. We have several speakers who are remaining to speak. Sir, I need you to leave the meeting. Please. Sir, I gave you several warnings. I asked you to sit down. I would like to hear from the remainder of the speakers. Please leave the meeting, sir. 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 Right. Sir, no, officers.
But,
all right, we're going to take a recess right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit down. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit down. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit down. We're going to take a brief recess, and we'll come back as soon as the room is calm. Thank you. Those are the two remaining speakers, Sheila and Yvonne Michelle. No. There was. No. Ma'am, please start the clock. Thank you.
So first, let me give my condolences to the family for their senseless death. We are here for you always. All we have is each other. That's right. To the commissioners, I don't know how you sit here week after week listening to the horrible stories of murders committed by officers of the department you are supposed to oversee. How are you not moved to tears, or better yet, moved to action, as yet another family pours their hearts and souls out yet again because another person was killed by the police you oversee? How are you not constantly sick, tormented, or laden with guilt? You are without a doubt responsible for this continued abuse and murder by virtue of not doing anything time and time again, or merely finding the last shot out of policy. You are responsible. You as commissioners are responsible. The chief is responsible, because this is only part of it. We have to fight to get you to find it out of policy. Families have to fly out. People have to craft comments of passion and frustration to compel you to do what you already should. As you likely know, since you stalk our social media, we hold 24-hour fitness responsible. One of our demands is to develop alternatives to calling the police. Over 500 people have signed on to this. Think about it. So many people are concerned that the police will show up and kill people that they don't even want to have you fucking called. Think about that. This should never happen. A person should never be killed by the police, period. This case is crystal clear, though. The man was naked and unarmed in the shower. The officer stated multiple times that he doesn't have time for this. So what, the consequence for supposedly wasting an officer's time is death? Both of their body cameras happened to fall off? Do you really fucking believe that? Are you really that foolish? Are you really that eager to add yet more shame to your name? Are you really that ready to give up what little integrity you have left, if any remains? Are you really willing to continue to uphold and protect racist, murderous police department that you were supposed to oversee? You were supposed to represent us.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let this be one of the very rare occasions where you actually fucking do so.
Thank you. Ms. Mubarak, are you here? And Yvonne Michelle?
She was detained.
All right. We're going to move into recess then to consider this matter. Thank you very much.
Yvonne Michelle Autry is here, ma'am.
Oh, ma'am, you have your two minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just also for your information, this very kind Caucasian woman came in after me, and she was not prohibited from submitting a card. When I came in, the officer who is no longer present said that it was too late and I could not speak. So I want that on the record. That is white supremacy. And this young woman was kind enough to accompany me so that I could be heard. Thank you for that. Okay, white people for black lives, all lives matter. And it's a shame that we have to even bring this to your attention in a country which in writing says all are created equal, when we still have not been acknowledged as human. We're not 3/5 human. Even women who are not married have no identity apart from their husband. So as a black female, who you all can identify, because most of you don't know what race I am anyway, or you think I'm a boy, girl, then I'm triply persecuted because I'm unmarried, okay, without my family, I'm independently poor, and I live alone, and you don't know what race or what gender I am. So this is ridiculous that I am put in the trash and I'm consistently labeled the problem or in the street. This is how I know that the persecution and the extermination of the innocent is what you are doing. This is a genocide. You consider yourselves to be within policy because this is a holocaust of those you consider expendable. Black people, people you cannot control, the people who don't look like you, and others within this system who pose a threat to white supremacy, white Zionist male supremacy, or the corporations, or the status quo, which is capitalism. This was a sacrifice. You went there with the intent to kill this man, and you know that. In 1996, police were called on me in the 24-hour fitness, and I did nothing. A white female, unlike this kind woman, said that I flashed her. I am so not the exhibitionist. I spent 7 days in Augustus Hawkins for something I never did. This was a predecessor to the murders that are occurring right now. Thank God I did not die, but I was injected for 7 days with risperidol, cogitin, and Hawk.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Audrey, thank you. Ms. Audrey, thank you very much, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand in recess as we go into closed session to consider this matter. Thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item 4A in accordance with Government Code 54957.
The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work in closed session. We are back in open session. The Executive Director will report out.
Excuse me. As item 4A, OIS 059-18, the Board of Police Commissioners tactics, administrative disapproval, 2 police officers, unanimous 4-0. Drawing and exhibiting, in policy, 1 police officer, 2, unanimous. Non-lethal use of force in policy, 2 police officer 2s, unanimous. Less lethal use of force in policy, 2 police officer 2s. Lethal use of force out of policy, 1 police officer 2, unanimous.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the rest of the agenda, which is the report of the Chief of Police.
Yeah, one question. The fatal shot without a policy?
That is correct.
One officer.
1 officer fired rounds, 4-0.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to proceed to the Chief's report. If you'd like to comment following the Chief's report, that would be the appropriate time. Please get your public comment cards in. Chief?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As is posted on the agenda, this portion of my remarks are about significant events that occurred in this last week, as well as statements relative to instances of crime and our personnel strengths. But before I begin that, let me frame my remarks by remarks I made to the Dorsey family, the mom and the sister that were here earlier. Privately, I'll say publicly. And that is that the circumstances of Mr. Dorsey's death is both tragic and sad, and you have my condolences as chief, as well as a member of this organization and just a father and an individual. I'm sorry for his loss. The department seeks to resolve instances such as this and the circumstances of this peacefully, without having to resort to force. We look to provide that we hire people of the highest character and capabilities and ability to be problem solvers and to negotiate and work their way through difficult circumstances. We provide them with tools and training. And we also give them instruction and guidance as to expectations. And when mistakes are made, there are consequences. And while I am prohibited by state law from talking about matters of discipline involving police officers, I am mindful that those consequences, when mistakes are made, need to evaluate a number of factors in deciding whether something becomes a matter of discipline. And I, in this instance, will do so as well with a great deal of attention. So, if I may, I need to frame my remarks and other aspects of this last week. And to that, please do not take aspects of covering about other aspects of occurring in Los Angeles as any reduction of the tragedy of your loss. But this last week, we did have a number of events in our public outreach and engagement. I want to thank the LA Fire Department for the events of 9/11 and the celebration of remembrance of life, but the recognition of the loss of such a tragic day in our history. I also want to talk about our suicide prevention efforts as a department and as a city continue. Say his name. Albert Ramone Dorsey. Say his name. Albert Ramone Dorsey. Say his name. Albert Ramone.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that you're here and you've presented your position. We'd like to complete today's meeting, complete it with public comment. If there's going to be another disruption, we'll have to clear the room and we'll continue the meeting. I'd rather not do that. If we could let the chief present his report, then there can be public comment in response to him. I'd very much appreciate that.
Madam President, with your indulgence, I can forego the remainder of my remarks, and we can deal with any update the Commission might have on crime or personnel strengths or other matters at a later time.
Thank you, Chief. Then we'll proceed to public comment.
Thank you.
If there are public comment cards on the Chief's report. And thank you for that, Chief.
On the Chief's report, we have 3 comment cards: Jonathan Foster, Yvonne Michelle, and Keith James.
Mr. Foster.
I do think that it should be a crime that when you, on a Tuesday after a holiday like Labor Day, that you guys all of a sudden don't show up. Here is First Sergeant Barreto. He was killed in a car bomb in Afghanistan on Thursday, September 5th. But you guys couldn't come here on the day after a holiday, like over and over and over again. I think that should be a crime. You scumhole corruption board. This exists in the community. This guy gave up his life. There's a lawsuit that changed the paragraph language that all departments have to operate from to use lethal force. Does not cover adding net guns and body armor so that no one needs to be killed. They just wasted their time on rewording language that says that you can still kill if it's needed, still uses the term reasonable officer. This has to be rewritten. I would have thought Illuminati Beck, Chief Charlie Beck, the Illuminati Beck, all the clout that guy has, they would have done something to change this. Because this is still going on in Ohio and Minnesota and Florida and Louisiana. But we live here. And they have been speaking up about this. How much does it cost to bring back a life? And if you had all the money to do it, is that enough? And this is how you find out how broke you are. You see, I would never want to have to highlight how broke you are and how broke the United States of America is, isn't it? It's broke.
Vaughn Michelle is not here, I believe. Keith James, not here. We'll go to general public comment then. Are there cards under general public comment?
Can I speak to this?
Yes, we have 6 cards. Keith James, Jonathan Foster, and Jacqueline Richardson.
Keith James, I think, is not here. Mr. Foster?
We're going to speak to Chief's report. You told us to put in cards?
Yeah, 2 cards there.
Very well. I'll just add them to general public comment and you can speak. If you already put in a card, I'll give you 4 minutes instead of the 2. Mr. Foster? My apologies. I didn't know cards were still coming in. Mr. Foster?
Let's see if I can get to this
Madam
one.
Secretary, who's after Mr. Foster?
The last time I spoke, I talked
Jacqueline
about...
Richardson.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Last
Mr.
time I
Foster.
spoke, I talked about the tax rate could stay the same, and if minimum wage goes up to $60 an hour or an adjusted to an inflation, you would get 3 times more of your budget. So I will continue the ideas, and it starts with, why isn't this happening? What kind of people are responsible for this not happening? And it's the billionaire multimillionaires like Soboroff's buddies, and they got rich only because they didn't pay a $60 an hour minimum wage, okay? And this is locked into their profit making. Now it's in their bank accounts, money that should have been paid out in paychecks. If everyone in big money of economy paid the overall need for police would plummet to an extremely low number, and you wouldn't need 3 times your budget. The current budget would meet the department's needs. Crime would drop because people could truly meet their individual needs and people would be whole. So what's the problem? The dark hearts, evil, satanic, unrighteous anus holes full of debauchery, hate-filled hearts of darkness, hearts locked in rebellion. That's what sin is, it says in the Bible. Rebellious, sinful, sin-ridden, dark hearts that will not pay who they hire. So Soboroff's anus hole rich buddies, that's the problem, the board of corruption up here. And so if we could get rid of that concept, we could free up 90% of the police department's issues. You find out that it's the rich people that they don't want to pay. They're just getting rich. And rich. And they can come up with a $15 an hour minimum wage here. I'm pissed at you people.
Ms. Richardson, good afternoon, ma'am.
Some women are with men and they think they're married and they're not. It takes two people to make a marriage, one man and one woman. Some people are three in a marriage, three women with one man. That is illegal. What does it take to get married? First, it takes a license. Go to the city hall and get a license, $100. Afterward, go fill it out. Go to a priest or a judicial authority authorized. Take your vows. Then go back and file those papers. You have to have the papers for the marriage to be legal. That's all it takes to be married. Some people, one lady married this man, and they went and got a legal marriage, but he was married previously and never got a divorce. That marriage was not legal. That was bigamy. Bigamy is a felony. Again, in order to be married, you need to pick up a license to be married. That's $100. Take it to a priest or a judicial official. Say your vows. Return that paper within 10 days. If the paper's not returned and it's not recorded in the books, you are not married. And that's all it takes to be married.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next three speakers, who are they?
Bill Watkins and Marlene Jensen. We only have two, but the other one's not present.
Watkins and Jensen are not here? Okay.
Oh, yeah. So the next three have 4 minutes. Adam Smith, Audrey George, and Hamid Khan.
I definitely don't need 4 minutes. I'm glad that the police commission made the right decision, but I don't want to give them credit for that. I think the credit goes to Ramone's family, his sister and mom, for showing up and for keeping this fight going over the last 11 months. And so they did the right thing because of y'all. It's not because they saw anything different. So I just wanted to name that.
Ms. George?
I'm very resentful about the fact that we had to be here and be here for so long today. After all of our pleas, I'm clearly, there's no agreement in the commission that you should be having community meetings at other times and places. There was a very important vote today at Board of Supervisors that we wanted to go to, a lot of us very badly. There was a Sheriff's Civilian Oversight Commission meeting this morning, same time as your meeting. It seems insidious. It seems very intentional that you don't want to hear from public. The best way not to hear from public is to make the meetings hard to get to, in a place that's intimidating, with police who won't let you bring snacks in when you're waiting here almost 2 hours for a decision. Thank you, Mr. T-Fink. They said that was your rule. And to make sure that there's other meetings to divide our interests and our energy. Shame on you all for putting the dissent, the community voice, for trying to shut it down like that. I also just need to comment on the fact that you are like an oversight body. So I haven't heard any of you voice how you feel about the fact that Chief Moore was so open in his disdain for your decision about Grosario Max murderers, that he feels absolutely not compelled at all to discipline, much less fire those cops. Shame on you for not caring that you rendered a decision after such careful consideration and it's totally ignored and disrespected and disregarded. Shame on you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan. I'm sorry, ma'am, did you have a card in?
Yes, Marlene Jensen.
Okay, I might have missed you after Mr. Khan, ma'am. My apologies.
So I think one of the things that is increasingly becoming obvious, and just to let you know, that the data and the information that we've been able to gather through public records, and we actually are wrapping up our second public records lawsuit successfully, because LAPD continues to play games with us. And what is clearly emerging going back to 2011, and especially the heightened killing of folks in 2015, 2016, 2017, is that you are creating conditions on the ground with policies and tactics and programs that not only in the bigger scheme of things provides immunity to these officers, but almost a license to kill. And we will come back with that information as well, because as we are researching all the documents that we are getting, based upon laser zones, anchor points, hotspots, and then when you add on top of that the suspicious activity reporting program, particularly the iWatch program, where you've seen clear evidence of racial profiling. I mean, that is your Inspector General that came back with that how it becomes a license to racially profile, particularly for white folks. And then you bring in 5,000 volunteers, eyes and ears, you bring in nextdoor.com, you bring in the Ring technology. So the policing tactics and programs are clearly creating those conditions on the ground which are ripe for murder of people and causing a lot of harm. The question is that how much more trauma do you expect the community and parents and families, I'm a parent, I have a daughter, how much more trauma do you want the community to go through? Because we have clearly, categorically identified murder of people, and we will bring back the names as well, in laser zones as well, in anchor points. We spoke about Grishario Mack, about where Slauson and MLK, and Stalker, and Slauson and Crenshaw, no, Stalker and Crenshaw, and MLK and Crenshaw were anchor points. And Crenshaw Mall is a laser zone. So it's becoming increasingly evident that unless these tactics are completely dismantled and continued, we will stay on this train of continuing to kill people. And the responsibility goes to you. We continue to wait as to what the fate of Predpol is going to be. I mean, as of yesterday, an additional, and you saw the UCLA faculty and students sign on to the letter against Brantham. As of yesterday, there's over 400 additional faculty and students all around the country, not locally in the U.S., but across the world, have written and signed on a letter which will be coming to you, just speaking out against the complete failure and the failure of ethics and merits of these kind of policing programs, particularly Predpol. Now you're coming back with location-based policing as well. And what's really interesting is that as if they're going to be policing trees and potholes. People don't exist in location. It's all this whole spin on words and racism the way we are looking at it. So, we're going to continue to come. I know this decision you made and whatever solace it'll provide, but it'll never bring Ramone back. It'll never bring him back, right? It'll never bring him back. So the question is that how do you move forward? How many more times do you want to literally have this thing hanging over your head, which means that you have blood on your hands? Because you have been put in a place, whether to your liking or to your not liking, that people look to you because you have to make the decision. It's almost this divine position that you've been granted, that you are deciding on people's fate. But you're also deciding on the future fate of the people as well. You're deciding what Angelenos want to do. You're deciding on what Los Angeles would look like. So, however this thing falls on your ears, it's really an appeal to you. That look at it closely, look at it, dismantle these goddamn programs, because we continue to be here, and then, this whole thing is going to continue.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Jenkins, is it? I'm sorry, ma'am. Please, and 2 minutes. She was only on public comment.
Actually, I had filled in a card earlier, too.
Oh, you did? All right,
yeah.
Then we'll give you 4 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I've been in Los Angeles for 50 years, came here as a young woman with a 5-year-old daughter, and the first thing that happened in the first 30 days I was here was a Asian American young mother with her 2 children were killed in a crosswalk due to a high-speed police chase. I wrote upon that happening to Daryl Gates. Daryl Gates sent me back a form letter stating police policy. 10 days ago, here in LA, I live on Chandler and Coldwater, there was another supposedly police chase. There was a security guard outside the synagogue, and I said to him, "Oh, what are they doing? They're giving this guy a ticket?" Because the guy was only 2 car lengths in front of the police officer's car. Now, if I have to catch my daughter and she's 2 car lengths in front of me, I'm a good enough driver to drive up alongside of her and make a motion. So anyway, this ended at Colfax and Riverside with them chasing this guy, and he ran into a mother with her young children, and only by the grace of God were these people not killed. And there were 3 other cars involved. When I spoke to an officer about it the next day upon going to North Hollywood PD to file a complaint, he said, "Well, no, it wasn't our fault. It was the guy's fault for running." Well, I've heard this propaganda for 50 years from police. For 50 years, I've heard, "We don't know if we're going back to our families today." Well, none of us do. I don't know if I'm going back to my family tonight. So I shouldn't be on a job then where I got a gun, where this poor woman, this poor mother, who put everything into raising this son, everything, where people are in a position that they can just take a gun and with a bullet destroy everything that person's life has ever been or ever will be. From the movie Forgiven, you take away everything a man would ever have. And what I see after being in this town for 50 years and talking to the police and hearing them, in Studio City, at the North Hollywood Metro, there was a bunch of officers standing around a guy, and they were all laughing and everything. And so I thought, I wonder what that was about. So they pulled up alongside me. I was at the light. I rolled down to my window. They rolled down there. And they said, that was the guy at Fashion Square chasing people around with a knife. And I was like, well, what is it? Is it this story? Or is it what I saw, that you were there laughing with these officers? So which is it? I've had the police lie to me so many times, and I think to myself, do they not think the public is conscious? Do they not think Studio City, they had a fair for families, and they had just in the last 10 days prior to that fair, they had killed a woman who had a knife. She was mentally ill. A black family had called them out to help with her. They shot and killed her. They killed another person. I asked the officers there, I said, doesn't that make you feel bad to shoot a woman who's mentally ill and kill her? And there was a man there with the color of hair of yours, Mr. Tafong, pretty hair, your color of hair. And he said, kill them all, swear to God. This is at a table, paneled by police officers. So I take it he was a retired one. And I thought, well, no wonder the LAPD has such problems, if this is what is on. And I just want to say, because as long as you've given me 4 minutes, years ago also, and I could give you the names and the faces, but going back to the woman who was mentally ill, I've thought about that with black families. What do they do if they've got a mentally ill person running around? Do they call out the police and the police shoots their loved one, or do they get help? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more public
We have one final speaker, Yvonne Michelle.
Yes, ma'am.
Autry. Yvonne Michelle Autry.
Because it's a British name and I'm a black woman. That's why. It's not Archie. It's not Citry, which is what you people call me to disrespect me. It's Autry, Yvonne Michelle Autry. You say my name because you cannot murder me. I'm exposing the fact that I have been harassed by a neighbor who I believe is counterintelligence. And as a Christian, I let God repay my enemies. He was protected because every time that I called the police, Department of Children and Family Services, the security, they incriminated me as the troublemaker. He masturbated on my door, urinated on my door, legally entered my room, followed me to LA Can, also to Los Angeles Poverty Department, where I perform and I participate in community activities. Police managers do nothing. So I know about the long arm of the FBI, counterintelligence, right, which is military, which is, of course, completely white supremacist. So, and in self-defense, after he knocked me down, I was pepper sprayed. Yeah, and you know about this, Michael Moore. But see, my God is good. Yeah, my God is good. So I was taken to jail, but I was released. You couldn't kill me in jail. You know why? Because my God is greater than you. My God is greater than you. And I was the victim. And my God is going to make sure that I'm exonerated. This man is a known pedophile, right? He abuses cats. He's sadistic. And I know that he is probably either an undercover or counterintelligence. But like I said, my God is watching you, and I'm innocent. Just so you know, these videos are edited. They have edited out the video portion that shows him assaulting me. But when I'm working or acting in self-defense, as I have a right as a woman not to be colonized and not to be used as a pussy, I'm not your box, I'm not your super hot battery charger. You will not return to slavery on my watch. Do you understand me? I own my body. So you make sure you get that part. I have a right to defend myself. I acted in self-defense, and that is on your record. So when I go to trial again, this is on your conscience. Also, Soboroth, right, you falsely accused me of a misdemeanor. You can't silence me. I have a right not only to freedom of speech, but to also organize with my peers and to publish. Right, misdemeanor, because I was speaking on topic. You have no souls. Now I know why they say, fuck you, Soboroth. You know what? Fuck you, Soboroth. Fuck all of you. Because you have no conscience, no soul, and you have no commitment.
Thank you, ma'am.
And like, who are you? Who are you?
Thank you, Ms. Audrey. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. We stand adjourned. Thank you.
Stay.
You made my day. You made my day. You made my day.
I'm Ralph Terrazas, Fire Chief, Los Angeles City Fire Department. Every day